you can move to the next slide.
Yeah. We have now come to the last item of the agenda, your questions, and we'll start by the question we received in writing before the seminar. A very usual question is to ask how much effort it will be on your side to join the award and participate to the award. So actually there are no figures we can give you because there's such a variation depending on how prepared you are, what type of project and so on. But just to give you an idea about the elements, the biggest single element effort is to prepare the application report. So this is probably a work that will take at least 2 to 3 days, up to a week, or even longer in some cases. On the other hand, I see this as also a very important part for your own learning, because this is the self-reflection part. So it's not just to do a report one-off to get an award, but it's really an opportunity for your own learning to reflect on what you have done and then get feedback on this reflection afterwards. So it's an integral part of the application process. Then there are of course other elements like arranging the practicalities around flights for 5 assessors who may also do international travels, hotel meeting rooms and these things. And what can be specifically challenging are the visa requirements. So in case there is an assessor to some country where there are visa requirements, this is often a bottleneck that needs to be started early on, because it has happened a few times in the past that the visa process was not done on time, and one assessor had to drop out of the team, which is of course not very nice. But in the cases where this process is started early on, and there you as an applicant can help to provide the local information, the invitation letter and so on. Then the third element of preparation that Greg mentioned was the preparation of the interviews at site. And there you will get some guidelines in what area you can prepare. But above all, it's to make the space free for the interview days that normally this year will be Monday 23rd and Tuesday 24th of June. And for bigger projects, mega projects, it may be that there's a third day as well necessary for the assessors to understand everything on site. So to make sure that the key people will be available on site for these up to 3 days. Next question, please. What kind of information you will get about the assessor team in advance? So basically, you will get a CV for each one of the assessors, and you will have always the team lead assessor as your direct contact. On the question whether there could be a conflict of interest, so from the assessor side, we have to declare that there is no conflict of interest, that we have no interest or not done any consulting on this project and so on in advance. And of course the other way around, if you would spot that potentially one or the other assessors could have a conflict of interest, we would of course take this into account and reallocate to another project, so we have enough project to cover that. So now I hand over to Greg for the third question.
Before I get into that question, just to add on to what Eric just said on the assessors information, you have to also keep in mind that award office takes enormous effort to make sure that you get the right team of assessors. So part of that is already a background check. So before you're even presented with the list of assessors, the award office makes a very big effort to make sure you get the right people, which also includes, of course, lack of conflict of interest. Whenever they feel like one person would be good because of the industry knowledge, but seems like they work for a competitor or something like this, you as an applicant, you are always consulted on this kind of decisions. So you have a very big degree of control over this issue. So when it comes to this application document support, the third question you have now on the screen, first of all, just keep in mind that you will have this second webinar that we mentioned before, and that's the first line of our support to you. That webinar is not like this one. This one is very much focused to give you a big picture. The other one that you have after applying is, this is like, we could say hands-on kind of a webinar on how to get ready for the actual process. And you will receive enormous amount of hints on writing the application, enormous amount of hints on how do we assess it, so what kind of things we're looking at, etc. So you will already have a lot of information. The next thing is that we do, this year we are introducing kind of a pre-screening of the applications to give you early feedback on the quality of it. There is only one condition which allows us to do it, which is that you send your application early. So if you would like to have initial feedback on the quality of your application, we cannot give you any feedback on how good is your project, of course, but we can tell you if the application needs some additional information or not. Please send your application early, and that lets the award office to give you that kind of feedback.
Yeah, I will continue with question 4. Before that, I'll just do a clarification on the assessors. I got the comment right now from Suraj Dahal, who is calling in, listening in from Nepal, and he points out that all the assessors are professional, but you should also remind that they are volunteers to this process, so they don't earn any money from it, and they take their own free time to put the efforts in. So question number 4, what kind of projects are excluded? We know the following criteria: completion within the past 24 months and no ongoing projects. So basically, up to now, we have not had to exclude projects. The criteria have been very clear and very general. And we have discussed at times whether there might come one day a project that for ethical reasons we do not want to assess, but this has not happened so far, so I don't immediately see that there is any problem in that area.
And then the next question is about the involvement of other parties. Basically, we try to make this process as least impacting other parties as possible. However, still it is very important to meet with various stakeholders. If you remember the model, we had 3 categories of stakeholders on the result part. There was customer, people, and other stakeholders. And these are primarily the ones that we want to interview. So we start with the customer representatives. Typically, this is approximately 1 or 1.5 hour session. So this is all that they need to get involved into. And this session does not require any prior preparation. So basically, they can come just as they are. They don't have to prepare any documents. They don't have to prepare any certificates or nothing like this, because the prime focus when we meet with the customer is to check their satisfaction level across the project. And we will ask various questions, mostly related to this part. When it comes to other stakeholders, we always would like to speak with key suppliers to the project. And again, per supplier, it is approximately about 1 hour session, an hour. It depends on the nature of the involvement of the supplier. Again, they do not need to prepare in advance. All they need to do is to select the right person that knows most about cooperation of you and that supplier in that project, preferably the person comes of that cooperation. Then we might involve a local community. In some cases, some projects interact with local community. Just to give you some examples, if you build, let's say, a power plant in the place where you have houses today, or let's say when we had the Expo project that meant removing many companies and citizens from that area, we also like to speak with representatives. But again, typically the whole involvement is approximately half an hour to 1 hour interview, and they do not need to prepare for that interview. So as you see, we try to minimize the impact on the other stakeholders. Still, it is very important that we meet with them. Our model criteria are based on these interviews. So the better contact we have with these stakeholders, the better score you can count on. And if we can move to the next question. And the next question is sort of related to this one. So basically, when do we get the site visit plan? If you remember the process that we've shown you a couple of slides back, that process started with the moment you send your application to us, and then you send your application report. When you send us your project report, this is the moment when you get in touch with the team lead assessor. And that is going to happen somewhere in May already. So in May, you will already get some kind of a rough proposal of what kind of interviews we want to have, when do we come, etc. So you can already start working on these plans. And this is very important to underline. These plans are done jointly with you. So it's not like this that TLA sends you a plan and you can only agree or not. We cooperate. This is iterative process. We start by sending you a list of types of interviews we want to conduct. You reply to us with potential interviewees that you can arrange for the interviews and those that you cannot. Then we give you feedback on the list of the interviews and interviewees. For example, we tell you, okay, if you exclude this and that stakeholder, this is the potential impact. So you know from the very beginning what kind of people you will have to invite, and you will have an impact on the site visit plan from the day zero. So you will probably have about 1 month to prepare for the site visit, and this will be iterative process. We're quite flexible when it comes to arranging it, because we understand how much of a challenge it is on your site. So don't worry, you will be supported on this, and you will know early on.
Yeah, now we have arrived to the last question of the one you prepared in advance, and this is about authorization for publication. What would be subject to publication? So, of course, we will not make anything public without your specific request, and especially for some projects, you can imagine the Chinese space project, the Thales laser system last year from France and so on, which are very sensitive projects. So here we really have a strict policy of confidentiality, so you have complete control of what is made public. And in addition to this, you should remember that we just assess project management, so we are not getting into the details of technology and other sensitive things like that. So now we open up to your remaining question that you can put online through chat.
We already have one question that has been asked when we've been presenting the model, and the question is, do you follow in general the method CMMI, Capability Maturity Model Integration? I would say yes and no, because we do not follow the maturity levels. We have a very different assessment method than CMMI. And the reason for that is that what we are mostly interested in, at least on the process part, because CMMI would be relevant to the process part, the left part of the model. What we're really interested in is how the PDCA cycle works within your processes. So we will not assess maturity levels. We will rather see how well do you choose the processes to run your project, how well do you try to execute them, how well do you observe these processes, and how do you take actions to adapt these processes as the project goes. So you might see some similarity to CMMI, but we do not expect your project, for example, to be, let's say, on CMMI 5 in order to win. Because sometimes it is better for the project to be on lower CMMI level and have this capability of adaptive learning as it goes. So our model is sort of taking different criteria into account. So if you try to find the main model behind the model, so to say, think PDCA. Are you planning your project consciously? Are you monitoring it? Do you take actions based on your observations? And do you change your behavior already inside the project? This is what we're really after.
Yeah, and if you have further questions, you're welcome to put it in the chat now before we close the session. In the meantime, I received an additional comment from Nepal, from Suraj. It says that some of the successful applicants and winners have an application manager to be in charge and be the focal person for all the application process, assessment process throughout, that this is recommended and encouraged. Indeed, it is a fact that if you appoint a kind of product manager for your own product of going through this award, it will indeed support the process and it will be clear to every stakeholder, so who is the central person coordinating on your side. Are there any other questions? Okay. Yeah, it seems that questions you sent in advance were sufficient and also cover the needs of everyone else. And so please don't hesitate to contact us again through the award office for any other question and queries you have. And as a last piece of advice before closing this, you should also consider the possibility to get a coaching on your application report. So when the team leader is assessed, you may send your draft version of the application report to see is this along the expectation, or are there some elements that could be improved. So this is an opportunity we put at your disposal to have this dialogue in advance to make you better prepared.
And the sooner you start the dialogue, the more we can help you in preparations.
Okay, so that's all from us today, and hope to see many of you during either site visit or in the Winners Club in Rotterdam in the summer or end of the summer.
Thank you for your attention, and as well hope to see you, and good luck with your projects in the award.
Bye-bye, and welcome back.